You are watching Tech Confessions, created by Amy Lewis and brought to you by VMware.
So, welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, here on Tech Confessions, we like to find out what your software-defined moment was or is. So, when did you make that transition from thinking in pure hardware terms to thinking more software?
Yeah, for me, I think like a lot of people who came kind of like from an engineer background, I think it was when I was making the transition into an architect. And specifically, I think the big aha moment was for me was when I failed the VCDX and I realized, yeah, it was.
It took a little bit of a.
Turns out I only learn when I make a mistake. If I keep doing good things and succeeding, I don't learn much. And so it was for me, I realized I was living too much in the physical world, too much of the wrench turning and nerd knobs, and I needed to be focused at a higher level, more logical, more conceptual, and more at the application type level.
I think that's so interesting that you make that correlation between sort of the way an engineer might think, typically has been trained to think, and the way you have to think architecturally.
Yeah, as an architect, you really need to think at a higher level, right? It's more agnostic. It's the why, and not the how, but the why, and then you justify why we're going to do something, and then from there we figure out exactly how we're going to do it.
That's so interesting. So have you seen more and more that software is the why? What do you think some of the drivers are in thinking those ways?
Yeah, I think like with software, it enables you to do more, right? Hardware is always limited in some form or fashion. And so with software, it's able to really bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing to take that next step then? Now that you had the moment, you took the exam, you went back and got your VCDX.
I did.
Yeah.
Almost immediately. I went to like the next defense. I don't like failing. And it's funny because I've become very open about my failure because that was very hard for me to deal with. And my best friend laughs because I hate failure so much. And I've now become like the poster child for talking about failure. But yeah, for me, the next step is really looking, and I've already started kind of diving into this, is more what I can do to automate. Right, it's looking so much more deeply at APIs and automation and CI/CD, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And well, you mentioned the somehow you've become the poster child for failure. I know that you've taken this talk about your experience with VCDX on the VMUG circuit. How has that been?
It's been interesting. It's been good. I think it's been a lot of feedback. I think we tend to focus more on our successes and kind of, and sometimes self-congratulatory, and always congratulatory of others. And I don't think that people like to talk about failure, and I don't. I don't feel good going up there and rehashing the things that I've done wrong, but the reality is that I learned from it, and I know others can also learn from failure, right? It's a good thing if you learn from it.
No, absolutely. It's almost like a prevention, and I think how powerful your message is about this different way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what's your next prediction? What do you think we can see in our future? You're looking at automation. Where do you think our industry's going?
I think we're going to be funny that I'm going to say this at VMworld. I think Microsoft is doing really well with open source, and I think we're moving more and more towards that. And you've got VMware having more APIs that are consumable in all of their different product suites. Namely vSphere was the big one that was kind of not there or is open for a while. So I think that's where we're moving, is more of how can we share information and how can we consume from each other.
Which sort of underscores that software story again. It's interesting that open source is only possible in that more software-defined world.
Yeah, so it's right now Microsoft has the highest number of contributors on GitHub, and I'd love to see 2 years from now VMware have that. That's what I'd like to see.
Maybe that'll be your next VMUG tour.
We'll see about that.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
When you're ready to make your tech confession, join us on TechConfessionstheshow.com.